Good afternoon. This call is number 2021-83793 in the interest of Angelo, Sofia, and Gianni Giraldo. All parties and witnesses, please raise your right hands to be sworn. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Miss Giraldo, I didn't hear your answer.
Yes.
All right, ma'am. Please state your name and your relationship to these children.
Jocelyn Giraldo, and I'm the mother.
All right. And sir, your name and your relationship to the children.
I'm the mother.
Andres Geraldo.
Yes. And your relationship, sir.
Andres Geraldo, and I'm the father of these children.
All right. And representing the Attorney General, State of Texas.
Andrea Eoff.
Court will note that the presumed father, George Suarez, is not present. He was personally served on January 29, 2022 at 8:15 a.m. at 17339 Cricket Mill Drive in Humble, Harris County, Texas. Further, he signed an order for parentage testing, which contained therein an order setting the Zoom hearing for today, and he has not appeared. Is that correct, Ms. Eoff?
That's correct, Your Honor. He did not appear today.
We'll proceed by default as to the presumed father.
Thank you, Your Honor. The custodial parent and non-custodial parent in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Geraldo, have an agreed order. Would you like to hear the stipulations of their agreed order?
Yes.
All right. They have stipulated that Mr. Geraldo is the father of all three children as supported by the DNA test evidence in the court's file. They are stipulating that they are to be joint managing conservators and that Jocelyn Geraldo will designate the children's primary residence within Harris and contiguous counties. They agree and stipulate that Mr. Geraldo will have a standard possession order for visitation with the children. They agree and stipulate that Mr. Geraldo will provide medical and dental insurance for the children through his employment, and that he will pay guideline child support for the three children in the amount of $1,673 beginning October 1st, 2022. They have agreed and stipulated that there will be no request or judgment for retroactive support of any kind, and there is no need for a finding of non-disclosure.
Is that your agreement, Ms. Geraldo?
Yes.
Is that your agreement, Mr. Geraldo?
Yes.
All right, and we have some DNA.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to ask that the court take judicial notice of the DNA results in the file that show that George Suarez is excluded as the father of Angelo Geraldo. And we'd like to ask that the court make a finding that he is not that child's father. The other two children were born during Mr. and Ms. Geraldo's marriage.
All right, the court will take notice of the DNA test report and approve the order as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Geraldo and Ms. Geraldo, you guys are finished and free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. Good afternoon. This call is number 2021-46907 in the interest of Mason, Matthew Sosa, and Noah Alvarado. All parties and witnesses, please raise your right hands to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, please state your name and your relationship to these children.
Jocelyn Alvarado, and I'm the mother.
Okay, and representing the state of Texas Attorney General's office.
Andrea Eoff.
Court will note that the non-custodial parent is Brandon Alexis Sosa. Mr. Sosa was personally served on October 5th, 2021 at 9:17 a.m. at 15031 Nickerson Lane in Houston, Harris County, Texas. He's not filed an answer or made an appearance. Is that correct, Ms. Eo?
He has not filed an answer and he has not made an appearance. However, he did submit DNA samples for 2 of the 3 children.
All right. The court will proceed with a default hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to ask that the court take judicial notice of the DNA results in the court's file that show that Mr. Sosa cannot be excluded as the father of Mason and Matthew.
Court will take note of the DNA test reports that are in the file, which would indicate that the alleged father, Brandon Sosa, is not excluded as biological father, Mason Sosa, and Matthew Sosa, both children of the subject of the suit. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'd like to call Ms. Alvarado Martinez.
All right.
All right. Ms. Alvarado, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Will you please state your full name for the record?
Jocelyn Alvarado Martinez.
And will you state the names and ages of your children?
Yes, Mason Alexis Sosa, and he's 3. Matthew Asari Sosa, and he's 1. And Noah Alvarado, and he's 8 months.
All right. And Ms. Alvarado, you are aware that we have positive DNA on file for Mason and Matthew. Is that correct?
Yes, I also went and did the DNA test
Ma'am,
for
thank
Noah.
you. Ms. Alvarado, I'll ask you a question when I need some information. So when it comes to Noah, are you alleging that Mr. Sosa is also the father of your son Noah?
Yes,
And have you ever alleged that someone else could be the child's father?
yes.
And what is it that makes you believe that Mr. Sosa is Noah's father?
Well, whenever I told them that I thought he wasn't the father was because he was born with Down syndrome, and Down syndrome didn't run in my or his family. And it was because I had another partner like a month and a half before I got pregnant with Noah, but it's impossible because it was like 6 weeks before I even got pregnant. It was just like a little thought in my head because I wasn't sure if Down syndrome ran in the other guy's family. But whenever I found out in the genetics team when he was in the NICU, they told me that Down syndrome came from him whenever he was being created, like the first weeks or so of my pregnancy. So it really had nothing to do with like family genetics.
Okay. So, to be clear, the month that you conceived Noah, you'd only had sex with Mr. Sosa. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Noah was born with Down syndrome. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that Down syndrome made you afraid that maybe someone else was Noah's dad?
Yeah, just the other guy, my previous partner.
And whenever you did genetic testing on Noah, you saw that there was nothing in the DNA that made you worried about paternity, that it was just a random mutation in that child, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you testifying to the court today that Mr. Sosa is Noah's father?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you asking that the court declare Mr. Sosa as Noah's dad and establish the parent-child relationship between them?
Yes.
Okay. So you have 3 very young children, one who has a genetic condition. And is it true that Mr. Sosa has not been an involved parent with your boys?
No, not really.
And does he spend a lot of time visiting with them?
It's very rare, but he does try to come every once in a while, like maybe like once every 2 months, sometimes once a week. It just depends. Like sometimes we're on bad terms and he'll disappear
Okay.
for a while. But
Thank you, Miss Alvarado. So you were raising these 3 children by yourself, is that correct?
yes, ma'am.
Do you believe it would be in their best interest if the court made you their sole managing conservator and made Mr. Sosa a possessory conservator?
Yes,
And do you want to be the parent who determines where the children live within Harris County and counties that touch Harris County?
yes.
Now, has Mr. Sosa made any effort to learn how to care for a child that has Down syndrome?
Absolutely not.
And you've got 2 children that are potty training age. Is he helping at all with potty training, or is he just returning children with dirty diapers?
No, he doesn't like to change dirty diapers, so he does bring them back to me once they soil themselves. My
So,
oldest one is potty trained.
because of that, do you believe that he should have a limited possession schedule that kind of starts with small amounts of time and then moves up as he gets a chance to prove himself?
Yes,
All right, I'm gonna read a schedule to you that you put in an order before we came into court today, and I want you to let me know if it sounds right to you. You would like for Mr. Sosa to have visitation from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. for 14 periods of possession on the first, third, and fifth Saturdays, supervised by you or someone that you choose. And then if he completes all those, 14 visits, first, third, and fifth Saturday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. unsupervised. And if he completes all of those, 14 visits, first, third, and fifth Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., followed by 14 overnight visits, 6 p.m. on the first, third, and fifth Saturday to 6 p.m. on Sunday. And then it's only if he moves through all of those phases that he would get a standard possession order. Does that sound like what you want from the court?
yes,
And do you want him to be required to give you written notice of his intent to exercise one of these periods of possession 7 days before the visit via email at yalvarado8723@gmail.com?
yes, ma'am.
And do you want your exchanges of the children to take place at the Chuck E. Cheese located at 146 FM 1960 Houston 77073?
Yes,
Okay. And Mr. Sosa is a barber, is that right?
yes, ma'am.
But you do not have any proof of his income at this time, is that correct?
No, not at this time, no.
So are you asking the court to award guideline child support based on the minimum wage presumption in the amount of $316 a month beginning October 1st, 2022?
Yes,
And are you asking that the court order you to provide health insurance through a government medical program for your children?
yes,
And are you asking the court to order Mr. Sosa to pay $88 a month in medical support beginning October 1st, 2022?
yes,
All right. And are you asking the court to make a judgment for back child support in the amount of $5,692 to cover the time period from January 26, 2019 to today, paid at $84 a month beginning October 1st?
yes, ma'am.
And do you believe that if Mr. Sosa has your address and phone number, or if it's published in the order, you could be subject to harassment or abuse or harm in the future?
Yes,
And can you tell the court why that is?
yes, because he's a very physical person, and when me and him get into altercations or disagreements, he likes to put his hands on me and come to my house and threaten my family, threaten me, and sometimes even threaten the kids. It just depends. The last altercation we had was in July, on 4th of July. He put hands on me, and ever since then, I just don't want anything to do with him.
Okay. Now, if the court were to enter an order that contains all the terms we just talked about together, do you think that would be in your children's best interest?
Yes, he would.
All right, Your Honor, I pass this witness.
All right, the court will approve the order as submitted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Alvarado, you're finished and free to go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, what was it? Let me see that order.
All right. And on this next one, Your Honor, this is going to be a contested hearing.
All right.
We'll have an initial, we've got some stipulations. There will be a threshold issue about calculating child support that we will need you to decide. And then once that's decided, we can give you the appropriate testimony for the other decisions you'll need to make.
All right. Good afternoon. This is call number 2010-12461 in the interest of Catherine, Jaden, Braden, and Almazan and Eddie Gonzalez. All parties and witnesses, please raise your right hands to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
All right, ma'am, please state your name and your relationship to the children.
Ivy
Yeah.
Almazan, I am the mother.
All right, sir, your name and your relationship to the children. Sir, Mr. Almazan,
sorry about that.
are you? All right, your name and your relationship to the children.
Oscar Almazan. I am the father of the children.
All right, and representing the Attorney General's office.
Andrea Eoff.
All right, we have an original petition and a suit affecting the parent-child relationship. We have a suit for modification and a motion to confirm support of rearage. My understanding, we're having a hearing today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And we have certain stipulations.
Yes, Your Honor, we do.
Will you
You
read
ready?
those into the record?
Sure. The parties agree and stipulate that Oscar Almazan is the father of the youngest child that will be adding in this case. And let me see here. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I've got myself on the wrong page. Yes, Gonzalez. I believe the child's name is Eddie Gonzalez. And the parties agree and stipulate that the child's last name will be changed from Gonzalez to Almazan. The parties agree and stipulate that the parties will be joint managing conservators of the child and that mom will designate the child's primary residence within Harris and contiguous counties. The parties agree and stipulate that Mr. Almazan will have a standard possession order for visitation of this child. They agree and stipulate that Miss Almazan will provide government medical insurance for the children. They also agree and stipulate that this case currently has a future pay balance in the amount of $917.08 as of September 18th, 2022, and that amount is to survive this order.
Is that the sum total of the stipulations?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so far, Mr. Almazan, is that your agreement?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Almazan also?
Yes.
All right, so what are the issues, Ms. Eoff?
All right, so all of the issues that we're facing, we will be having a hearing over how much Mr. Almazan should be ordered to pay in child support, how much Mr. Almazan should be ordered to pay in medical support, and whether or not retroactive support is appropriate in this case. We have a couple of arguments on each item. And so the threshold issue I think that we should deal with first is whether or not Mr. Almazan's support obligation should be calculated using his total income, which would be his regular wages and his overtime income, or his regular 40-hour-a-week income only.
All right, let's proceed.
All right. Your Honor, at this point in time, I would like to call Oscar Almazan.
Okay.
Mr. Almazan, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Almazan, do you believe that your support obligation should be calculated using both your regular and your overtime income, or your regular income only?
Just my regular 40-hour income.
And why is that?
The types of work I do, ma'am, are not permanent. They're temporary. I work in refineries doing shutdowns and turnarounds. That means the job could last from 3 months to a year, and the hours change from 40 hours to 60 to 74 to 84 hours a week. So the overtime isn't a permanent thing, ma'am.
All right. I have no questions and pass this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Almazan, do you have any questions for Mr. Almazan?
No.
All right.
All
Ms.
right.
Eoff?
Your Honor, I would like to call Ivy Almazan.
All right.
Miss Almazan, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So when we are calculating child support and medical support in this case, do you believe that the obligation should be calculated based on Mr. Almazan's regular wages and his overtime, his total income, or just his regular 40 hours a week wages only?
No, she's overtime as well.
All right. And why do you think that?
Because whenever she does get overtime, she could work up to 80 hours. So that's like another 40 hours of overtime. So it balances out throughout the whole year.
Mhm. All right.
She actually works more.
All right. I have no further questions and pass this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Almazan, do you have any questions of Miss Almazan?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
All right.
All right, Your Honor, I'd like to call Officer Barrera.
All right.
Officer Barrera, will you please state your name for the record?
Arnaldo Barrera,
And what is it that you do for a living, Mr. Barrera?
a child support officer with the Attorney General's office,
And how long have you done this job?
15 years.
And are you familiar with the Texas Family Code and the stipulations that it has regarding the calculation of child support and what is considered income under the law for the purposes of child support?
Yes, I do.
And is it your impression that the Family Code states that when you're calculating child support, it should be all income going to the obligor?
That is correct.
And so do you believe that all income includes both regular wages and overtime?
Yes.
And do you have processes and procedures in place for how you calculate, an average income and support when you're in a position where you have variable overtime like Mr. Almazan does?
Yes, we take an average of his income based on what's being reported on his check stub.
Okay, and can you describe in detail how you're able to get that average amount for the court?
Yes. Mr. Almazan provided a check stub dated September 16th
Mhm.
with a year-to-date income. With a year-to-date income of $34,134.20. And Mr. Almazan stated he started working. The first paycheck he got at this company was February 25th of this year.
Mhm.
So I, from February 25th to today, or to September 16th, it is 29 weeks. So I divided the whole amount, the 34,134.20 divided by 29 weeks, and it's averaging weekly of 1,177.04 per week.
All right.
So his weekly average was 1,177 times 52 divided by 12, a monthly income of, I'm sorry, give me 1 second, get to that page. Monthly income of $5,151.
Okay. Thank you very much, Officer Barrera. I have no further questions and pass this witness.
Miss Almazan, do you have any questions of Mr. Barrera?
No.
Mr. Almazan, do you have any questions of Mr. Barrera?
No, sir.
All right. Can he be excused, Ms. Eoff?
No, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I would
Okay.
like to keep Officer Barrera here because we will need his testimony
That's
on
fine.
these subsequent issues.
That's fine. Okay, go ahead. Call your next witness.
All right. So, well, Your Honor, may we get a ruling on whether gross wages will include the overtime or if they will be 40 hours a week only?
Well, Mr. Almazan, are you paid by the hour?
Yes, sir.
And how much do you make an hour?
$22 an hour.
And overtime is 33?
Yes, sir.
So you have maybe 8 to 10 hours a week overtime?
Yes, sir.
Average? All right. And that's been going on since February?
Yes, sir.
Uh, I, I, I I don't know how to calculate the amount of child support. I don't think we've talked
Um,
about whether he has outside other children or
Oh, no,
so forth.
Your Honor, Officer Barrera has calculations for child support and medical support for both total income and no overtime, and then a third option. I can have him testify as to those numbers, or you can just let us know what guideline you would like us to use for the calculation.
Well, I want to hear the testimony of
Okay,
whatever amounts he has calculated in
All right.
all regards. I don't
Okay.
know if he has any other children or not that he's paying child support. We haven't touched that yet. So
all right. Then, Your Honor, may I call Officer Barrera at this time?
yes,
All right, Officer Barrera. If we were to include all of Mr. Almazan's income, how much would guideline child support for all of the children in this case be?
Including all of his.
If Mr. Almazan is paying child support for all 4 children to Miss Almazan at guidelines using his total
The
wages.
guideline child support amount would be 1,324
Mhm.
for child support, and medical support would be 408.
All right. And if you were calculating child support for all 4 children based on just his base salary with no overtime, what would those amounts be?
At $22 an hour, his gross income was $38.13. His child support amount would be $1,017 for child support, and medical support would be $305.
All right. And as I understand it, the parties have a dispute regarding one of the 4 children, in that even though mom is the custodial parent of the oldest child, that child has been living with the father, and the father would also like for child support to be offset because of those additional periods of possession. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if the father were given that offset, what would child support be?
If he was given that offset regarding giving him credit for 1 child at home and paying for 3 children that live in with mom, and then what mom would be paying dad with 1 child, with 3 children at home and 1 child to dad, he would be paying $1,035 minus the $326 that mom would be paying him. So his amount would be $710.
how much? I'm sorry.
$710. That is giving him credit for 1 child living in his residence and only paying for 3 children with an offset of what mom would be paying him.
But the medical support amount would remain the same because mom continues to provide government medical for all 4 children, correct?
That is correct. That is based on the income of what he's receiving.
Mhm.
With that is with overtime.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, may I have no further questions for Officer Barrera at this point in time.
Mr. Almazan, do you have any other children that you're paying child support for?
No, sir.
Do you have any other children, minors, that are living with you?
No, sir.
So which child is living with you?
The second oldest, Jaden Eli Almazan,
And how long has he been living with you?
for about 3 years.
Okay. Is that correct, Miss Almazan?
No, sir, it's not.
That's not correct?
No.
Well, how long is the child, first question, is the child living with him right now?
Currently, he is, yes.
Okay. How long
He-
has the child been living with him?
He's been living with him since last year, so a year ago. because
ago.
his school is closer to his dad's house.
Okay, so there's a dispute whether the child's been living with the father for 3 years or for 1 year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we were trying to calculate retroactive child support in this situation, Ms. Eoff?
We will be calculating retroactive child support just for the child that we're adding to this case. We are not able to modify anything regarding to, the prior order for the older children. We will just have a retro amount for that new baby.
And Mr. Almazan was paying $300 a month in child support previously. Is that correct?
I can confirm that, but yes, I believe so.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor. In the prior order signed on March 9th, 2010, he was paying child support of $300 a month, medical support of $113 a month, and he is in future pay right now with no arrears.
All right. The court orders that the father pay child support in the amount of $710 a month and cash medical support in the amount of $305 a month beginning October 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we have one final question for the court, which is whether or not it would be appropriate to award retroactive support for the new child from the time period of October 2018 to today. And may I call Officer Barrera to testify as to that amount?
Yes.
Officer Barrera, have you had a chance to calculate what the retroactive child support would be in this case?
Yes, I have.
And can you describe those calculations for the court?
Yes, I calculated retroactive child support based on income reported for Mr. Amazon from 2018 to today. From 2018 to 2019, no income was reported, so that was based on minimum wage. That amount, he should have been paying for 4 children, $400. He was paying $300 per the prior order. So the difference for retro for the new child would be $100 for those months. I believe that's 15 months from October 2018 to December of 2019. In 2020, there is income being reported for Mr. Amazon, and his child support amount for those months, into my spreadsheet, for 2021, for 2020, his child support amount for 4 children based on his income reported by his employer should have been $1,490. His prior order was $300 a month. So the retro amount per month for 2020 would be $1,190 per month. In 2021, his income being reported, his child support should have been $851 minus the $300 from the prior order. His amount for 2021 per month would be $521. And in 2022, from January through September, his child support should have been $1,242 minus the $300. His retro amount per month for the new child would be $942. And that sums up to $30,870 with a proposed payout of $204 as a PP2, a payment plan.
All right, thank you, Officer Barrera. I have no further questions and pass this witness.
Well, now I have a question. Did you take in consideration that he has 1 child living with him?
I did not take consideration the one child that was living with him due to the fact that he was ordered to pay child support for that child as in the $300 and per the prior order, and he should have been paying $400. I'm sorry, for 4 children, and that's what I use calculation wise, Your Honor.
But he wouldn't be paying for 4 children if there was a child living with him,
Yes.
would he?
And there wasn't an agreement regarding how long the child was living with dad. Dad was saying 3 years, mom was saying 1 year.
And so
I did
how
not
did
do
you
any calculations on that, Your Honor.
you didn't give credit for anything.
I didn't give credit for children during those time periods.
Mr. Almazan, do you have any questions for Mr. Barrera?
No, sir.
Ms. Almazan, do you have any questions for Mr. Barrera?
Yes. Mr. Barrera, I wrote down the first number that you have stated, or what he was supposed to pay me, and you said a different number right now. I have wrote it down. It was 1,218, and I was supposed to pay 326 if considering about my son that it was him, and it was gonna the rest of it was gonna be $892.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
The amount, yes, when I had calculated the child support, giving credit with 1 child with him and 1 child and 3 children with you, I was in error in it because I was doing 4 children, that he was ordered to pay 4 children to you and 1 with him. And that amount was 1218 minus the 326. But giving him credit for 3 children, I'm sorry, for him paying 3 children and 1 child with him, the amount would be 1,035 minus the 326. And that's how it came up to the 710.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Almazan?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
ahead. Okay.
No, for you.
No, not
well,
for
not
me.
questions. No, for you. Oh, okay. No, for him. No.
For Mr. Barrera, any further questions? Ms. Almazan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any further questions for Mr. Barrera?
No, I do not.
All right. Ms. Eoff,
I
any
do,
further witnesses?
no, Your Honor.
Mr. Almazan, do you have anything further you wish to say?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Almazan, do you have anything further you wish to say?
Yes, Your Honor. As I said before, my son was living with him for the past year because his school is closer to his dad's house. This year is not the case. This year, his new school, the senior high, is near my home. I am the one responsible for these kids to make it to school every day. All of them. Their dad has never gone to school. They don't even know his name. Nothing. They know me at all my kids' school, all 4 of them. I'm the one responsible if they get, tardies, all of this. They go to look for me, not him, not at his house, to my house, me. I provided a home for these kids. I have my own apartment. Mr. Almazan lives with his mother and a brother. They have a lot of help. I do not. I live by myself with my kids. When my son can't make it to school, he misses the bus because the bus still takes me to that senior high. But if he misses the bus, my son has to ride the bicycle all the way to the senior high, which is far away from there. And that is why he already received 4 tardies. So they sent me a warning. And I told him, I said, you're going to have to come over here because last year was okay because the school was closer. This year is not. So I am the one that's going to have to show up to court if my son does not go to school like he's supposed to. And I do not have that ability because I wouldn't know if he goes to school or not because their dad leaves at 5, 6 in the morning, I'm not sure. So he's gone. He's not responsible for him going to school or not. I take my other kids to school every day and I pick them up every day. I do. So I'm gonna need him to come live with me this year. Last year I said it was different because the school was closer. This year I am the one responsible. So he's gonna have to come and live with me. So he's not gonna be living with him any longer. Because like I said, I'm the one responsible for them to make it to school every day. And by him being over there, nobody makes sure that he goes to school. There's nobody there. Nobody could give him a ride. There's nobody there. It's only himself. Everybody goes to work. He leaves to work. So he doesn't even know if he goes to school or not. He doesn't make sure. And I have sent Mr. Alma some messages with the emails that they sent me when he started because he's living with him. I just want him to make sure look what's happening. So from now on, that is not going to happen anymore because my son is going to come and live with me. If he misses the bus, I could take him because I'm right there home. I'm home right there, and I take my other kids to school. I have 4 kids. All the schools are literally down the street from me, all of them. So I take all my kids to school, except Jaden right now because he's staying with his dad. But I have to make sure he goes to school, like I mentioned, Your Honor. And that is from now on, he is not going to live with his dad anymore.
All right,
So I will be taking care of that.
all stipulations are approved that were read into the record. Retroactive child support judgment is awarded in the amount of $25,000 to be paid at the rate of $175 a month, beginning October 1st, 2021. Anything further, Ms. Hill?
No, Your Honor.